Welcome to another episode of Chappy Hour. I'm your host, Chloë Chapdelaine, and today we have on a regular guest of the show. Welcome back, Colby.
Woo!
We are back on for another episode, and we're going to talk about a specific theme, which is travel. Travel is something that is pretty big in both your and my life.
Yeah, I agree.
Obviously, I feel like it takes up a really big part of our life, and we both have some travel on the horizon. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've got coming up?
Yeah. For my birthday in like a week and a half, I head to Aruba, which I'm super excited about. It's a new country, checking off on my list, and yeah, I'm pretty pumped. It's a new place for me.
I've never been to Aruba, but I know it from the song where it's like da na 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 na.
Yeah.
You know the one?
Aruba, Jamaica.
Yes.
Girl, I wanna take a
That's the one. That's how I know it. And I'm going to be going, well, we have a birthday a day apart, which is so funny, March 6th and March 7th.
We're literally a year and a day apart.
It's pretty crazy. Pisces season.
Woo!
But I'm going to be going to Mexico for my birthday, just with my mom. A nice little relaxing trip. And so because we're going to be traveling in basically a week, we thought it was the perfect time to do a travel-themed episode for you guys. I mean, not everything will be travel-related probably in today's episode, but we're going to try to weave our way back to travel in every little story.
Yes.
So let's get started. But for everybody who's listening, whether you have a drink or not, maybe it's time to go and fill one up because we're going to get started. So cheers! Welcome to Chappy Hour. It's kind of like happy hour, but with me, Chloë Chapdelaine, where I catch up with a friend over drinks. It doesn't need to be 5 o'clock to join, so grab your favorite drink, sit back, relax, and let's get started. Cheers. I'm pumped to be back for another episode this week with you, Colby. And like I do for every episode, I start on a high note. We start strong with the I'll take a double section, which is where we talk about a life hack that we have to share. And like I mentioned, both of our life hacks are travel related. Mm-hmm. And I know you have a pretty good travel related life hack. Do you want to share?
So this will actually work well for my upcoming trip because I only have a personal and a carry-on. So I have to be strategic with my liquids. But with that being said, something that I've learned from an actual like TSA security guard agent, if you're like specifically a girl needing, more room for liquids, to put some of your liquids in that like TSA approved bag in your personal item. And that's the one that you'll take out and show through security. And then your other one will be in your carry-on bag, but then you mix it with like your makeup brushes and like all of that. So that's what I do, is putting it in 2 separate bags, because most of the time when you're going through the airport and you're like putting your bins through the line, they get all randomized anyway. So how are they going to know that, this person has 2 bags of liquids?
Especially if you put them into the little pre-plastic bags that they give you. Like, I feel like 99% of the time they're not going to be able to tell. That way you can bring more makeup. I've done this. I've done it and it 100% works.
It does work. And like normally, to make it like less like obvious, I guess you could say, is I put like my like liquidy stuff in that bag, plus things that are like a little bit more important. Mm-hmm. So my hair care, and then like a liquidy liquid I would consider as like my micellar water, because to me that's liquidy liquided. But then like something like a concealer or a lip gloss,
or like a mascara.
Yeah. I would, or even toothpaste, like I would put that then in my second liquid bag.
And yeah, on that note, something I would add is when I've done this in the past, one of the bags I'll have all of my high value items, like stuff that I absolutely would not want to part with. And then in my secondary bag, like what you said, might have your like toothpaste or like liquid items. That sounds so funny to say. Those are the items that I would be okay with parting. Yeah. So that if I got caught and they made me throw away a whole bag of liquids, at least I'm not like having to frantically sort through all of my items and like pick out the ones that are more expensive or more valuable and have that stressful moment. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great hack. I mean, I've done it. I don't know if it's the most ethical thing to do in the airport, but it'll likely, if you need to travel with more liquids and you're traveling carry-on, work.
I know. Like, even when like people are like getting then stopped with their bags too. Like the other day when I was traveling, someone literally had a full-sized aloe vera in their bag, and they're like, "Bro, you can't take this."
Obviously. Oh,
So they have better things to deal with than me and my 14 million lip glosses.
Yeah, and on the note of trying to take more things than you're supposed to through like on carry-on, I have a topic on that because I really struggle with packing, with getting my items down to a smaller amount. I always say if I didn't do social media or if I wasn't taking photos of myself on vacation, it'd be so easy because I could just like pack the essential items that I know I'm going to wear every day. But like knowing that I am going to be in videos and photos, I always want to pack as much as I can to like maximize my outfits while I'm traveling. And it's hard to have a really small bag that's only, I don't know, carry-on size.
Yeah.
And so there are some hacks floating around on how to travel with more clothing items than you're supposed to have in carry-on. And I've tried some of them, so I want to share them with you. The first is the pillow hack. Now, before you just start doing this, I do want to caution you. I think that this hack is getting caught on to by airport security. So I don't know how well of this hack is, but I'll describe it to you. So you just basically take like a zip up pillowcase, take the pillow out and stuff your clothes into the pillowcase. And when you're walking through security, you just act like it's a pillow. And so I've done this and it's worked. And I've also seen people have their pillow taken away because
Really?
yeah, I have. And the gate agent was saying that's no different than a tote bag. Like you need to be able to fit it in your, like it's clothing in there. Like they got called out. But I would like to note with them, it was clearly not like soft pillowy items in their pillowcase. Like it was clearly not a pillow. Like I'm pretty sure they had like sneakers and stuff in there. Like it was lumpy, frumpy.
That's dumb.
Yeah. So I will say I've gotten away with doing this hack, but the new alternative that I think still works just as well if you're scared of getting caught carrying your pillow through, and I'd say on most long haul flights you'll get away with it, but maybe on shorter ones with like budget airlines, that's where they're a little bit more stingy, is just grab your neck pillow. So it's the exact same thing. Get one of those like U-shaped neck pillows, take the pillow out and stuff it with clothing items. And that one is like, it's a little less obvious that you're stuffing it because it's a wearable item versus something that you're carrying separately.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why you can kind of get away with it. But yeah, that's what my hack is if you really need to travel with extra stuff, because when I go to Mexico next week, I don't even have a carry-on. I'm only going with a personal item.
You might need to shove your bikinis and underwear and socks in a neck pillow.
I think I might need to.
Wait, why didn't we think about this earlier?
Okay, actually, we were trying to pack right before this episode and I was struggling because like I'm struggling straight up, but I should try that. Yeah, that's a great idea because one time I tried to wear as much as I could while I was on the plane. Like I wore every layer I could. I wore like leggings and then jeans and then overalls over top of both of those and then like a tank top and then a t-shirt and then a hoodie and then a jacket. And and underneath all of this, I also had like a fanny pack, so I looked pregnant. No, I actually think they thought I was pregnant because when they made me go up and they were sizing my personal item, because I only had a personal item that time too, I was like stressing trying to like jam it into this like sizer thing. And I was like waddling around because I had the fanny pack strapped like under on my stomach. And it was like a full one. Like it was actually the Uniqlo bag, not even a fanny pack, under my overalls, but it looked like full on like a belly bump because it was like fully, and I was like flustered trying to do it. And the guy, the gate agent, he was like, ma'am, no, take your time. You're good. I know how it is. Like you're fine. Like it's okay. And he was like, do you need extra time? Like I think he thought I was pregnant.
Bro, go with it though.
And I did. So then I was like holding my stomach like I was, because I was like, I have to embrace it at this point. But then when I got on the plane, because I was wearing so much, I fell asleep right away in my cozy little marshmallow suit. I woke up and I fainted on the plane because I think I overheated while I was sleeping. And it was actually the single most scariest experience of my entire life. It was actually horrifying. I completely lost vision. I was in a cold sweat. I don't even want to think about it. The poor flight attendants, they gave me water and sugar and then I came back to life. But I've never had an experience where I've like full on fainted on a plane until then. So that's why I'm like, okay, don't wear all the layers. That's not the hack. Use the neck pillow. Yeah. But anyways, We're going to move on to the daily special section of the podcast because we're spending too long on the life hacks, which is where we talk about what's trending and what we're seeing and how we feel about it. And there's lots that is going on and is trending right now. But one thing I've seen specifically, okay, so it's called the subtle art of looking put together, which was a concept brought up by a woman who I saw on TikTok. And I think this relates to travel because, you know, when you're traveling, narrowing down your wardrobe and your closet can be really difficult while still like thinking, how am I going to look put together? Like I only have such select pieces to choose from. How do I still look like I've got my life together, right? And so this is where the subtle art of looking put together comes in. And basically the concept is there are tiny little things that you might overlook in everyday life that you can do that will elevate your look to make you go from just like looking like you're just trying to get by to looking like you've really got your life together. And they're so subtle. And some of these things might be, for example, having a fresh manicure, like always having clean nails. It doesn't even need to be like acrylics or gel nails. Like it could even just be like having really clean polished nails that you've filed into a nice shape.
Or even like just like the press-ons.
Or the press-ons, exactly. Yeah. Or another thing is just like washing your face and having really like moisturized skin, like not letting your skin get dry. Or maybe it's brushing your eyebrows, which is probably something I could use right now. I feel like I'm not following any of the subtle art of looking put together right now. But it's just little things that can be really easily overlooked, but when you put them all together, it really makes you look like you've got your life together.
Yeah, I always notice that like if you're adding just like jewelry to your
Yes.
outfits, you always just look so much more put together. So like one of my girlfriends, she's like a little fashionista, and even when she wears like the most like basic little outfit, her adding jewelry to it just makes her look so much better.
Yes, absolutely. And like even for some things, it could be like putting your hair from like a sloppy bun into just like hiding some of those flyaways, or there's so many little things you could do, which leads to the next point, which is having a signature look. Now, the concept of having a signature look is something that I think every person on earth can apply to themselves. Like whether you're a man or you're a woman, whatever your style is, that's the beauty of this. And basically the concept is once you find out what those subtle art of looking put together things are for you, it's layering it with pieces that you feel are truly you, that become almost a motif in your style, or something that people can point out and think, oh, that's Chloe, like that's so Chloe, or oh, that's so Colby. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for example, like for me, something that I always do is I always wear lots of gold rings. Like I love them, and pearls. Like I love gold and pearls. Like those are my two things. I wear them nearly every day of my life. Especially when I want to look put together.
Yeah.
And so that would be something that I would say is my signature look. For somebody else, maybe it's just like having a specific color of lipstick. They like love to wear like a red lipstick. But the cool thing is that it doesn't matter what style you have. It doesn't matter like what genre you think you fit into, because I think with social media right now, it's really easy to feel like, oh my gosh, I need to follow the next trend.
Yeah.
And I need to do like what's cool right now. It doesn't need to be what's cool right now, because it just needs to be you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Do you have anything that you feel like is kind of your signature look?
I think just always wearing my rings is what it is for me. And then just even when I'm like out in public, I always seem to like, if I'm not like wearing athletic clothing, it's like a baggy bottom and a tight top.
I totally agree with that as being part of your style. I feel like whenever I see that, I think that's a Colby outfit, you know? And like for some people, maybe it's wearing high heels with like every type of outfit. But the beauty is this is something that you don't need to go searching for in other people to find for yourself.
Yeah.
It's something that you feel the most confident when you do. It could be anything. It could be something that even in the eyes of other people, it won't fit their like ideal beauty standard, but it's so unique and individual to you that it becomes your staple. And I just wanted to bring that up because when you're traveling and you have such a limited wardrobe and you don't have a lot of room, if you have figured out something that you think is still your signature look, on top of those things layered with this subtle art of looking put together, if you have those signature looks that you can apply to yourself, pretty much any outfit, no matter what you do, no matter how little you pack, you can still feel yourself and feel confident while you're out and about.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was something really cool. And I think it's something that lots of people don't realize. Like myself personally, I'd say over the last few years, style has been a journey for me. Like
I agree.
I didn't know what style I liked or felt most confident in. And I think that's really normal for people in their young 20s to be experimenting and trying to figure out what they feel the most confident in, you know, with what they're wearing. And so it takes time to figure out what that thing might be for you. And that's where it's fun. You get to experiment. You can try different things until you find something that really clicks.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about that because I love the concept. Something else that's been trending lately on social media that I've seen a lot is something that's happened in Toronto recently.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about what it is?
Yeah. So literally the other week, there was a plane crash in Toronto. A Delta plane had like roly-polied over onto the top side of the plane.
It was upside down.
Yeah. And top side of the plane, upside down. I literally clearly didn't know what I was saying there. But the plane was upside down. And these people were like, there was people literally filming like as they're crashing and being like, oh my God, we're upside down. And it happened, honestly, I'm not really sure why it happened, because if other planes were landing perfectly fine, why didn't this plane land perfectly fine?
Yeah, I haven't seen an official statement about what caused this to happen.
Yeah.
But the fact that if you see like the footage or the photos on social media, it's nuts. People literally were upside down in their seats when this plane flipped while trying to land in Toronto. They had to unbuckle themselves, climb onto the ceiling of the plane and out the emergency exit. And the wings of the plane, where are they?
Yeah,
They're
gone.
They're gone. They're not even on the plane.
Yeah, like one came off as soon as it like started roly-polying.
Yeah, which is just like, it's crazy because whenever I thought about like fear of flying, I feel like a lot of people have the fear for the in the air part, you know, like you're in the air, maybe you feel a little bit of turbulence.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary to most people. But when you think that, oh goodness, I'm coming down to land, like I feel like you'd feel like, oh,
relief.
We made it.
Yeah.
It's over. Like we're coming down, we're almost landed. And that's where it went wrong, which is really scary because it happened at the airport.
Yeah. And like just like the day before that, a little like truck that like works on the airport was on fire.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay, but something that I think is interesting now is, and I want your take on this, everybody apparently who was on that plane crash, which by the way, everybody survived.
Yeah.
Everybody survived. There were some injuries, but everybody is alive, which I think is absolutely amazing. And I'm so happy to hear that there were no fatalities.
Literally.
But everybody on the plane is being offered $30,000 in compensation.
That's not enough.
I fully agree.
That's not enough. Because if you think about it, not everyone on that flight is going to be Canadian, 100%. And yes, Canadian healthcare is typically covered. I mean, you might be waiting a little bit longer or, you know, like there's like proper more insurance in place. But with Americans, $30K ain't gonna cut it. That's not gonna cut it. And yeah, they need to lawyer up good. But Kate, I have a conspiracy theory on why the plane crashed where it did.
Okay.
And I know 100% if other people are watching this on the podcast, personally, for me, I think because Canada and the US are kind of like butting heads right now, especially the US towards Canada.
Yeah.
That the Americans did it on purpose. Like that they were trying to like stir the pot in Canada, because if it was like a Canadian flight in Canada, then I don't think like obviously my conspiracy wouldn't be here, and maybe it wouldn't be that big of like ruffled feathers with both nations. But because it's an American airline flying into Canada, like it didn't come anywhere else from Canada. It came out of the States. So like, I don't know, just because with how other plane crashes within the States have been happening with the helicopter like colliding with the airplane or whatever.
That was odd.
Yeah. So I'm like, what if they did it on purpose?
Why though? Why do you think they would do it on purpose? And then how would you explain all of those plane crashes that were just like strictly within the US?
Because like before those plane crashes happened, before there was now like beef between Canada and the States.
I don't know about this.
No, seriously, I think it's a ploy to like make some sort of like stirring the pot.
Okay. You
Yeah.
guys let me know what you think, because that's a pretty crazy conspiracy
I know,
theory.
but you know what? I'm sure there's worse conspiracies than mine. So.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many crazy conspiracy theories out there. But still on the topic of Toronto.
But moving into our next topic.
But yeah, moving into our next topic.
Of On the Rocks. So oddly enough, so the plane crash happened on the Monday. I was supposed to fly out on the Sunday.
Yeah,
in Toronto.
When I saw the footage of the plane crash, I literally sent it to you immediately, and I was like,
so
"Are
many
you
people.
okay?"
Yeah.
Like, I thought you were flying out that day, and I was so stressed. I was like, "Oh my gosh, Colby's died." Like, I didn't know because I didn't know anything about it yet.
No. So many people were sending me the videos being like, oh my God, like, are you okay? Are you flying out right now? Because like I made it obvious on social media that I was in Toronto. But because Toronto was going through weather conditions that to me were just not an excuse. I come from Winnipeg, so cold, snowy weather means nothing to me when it comes to flying. But I was supposed to be flying with Porter Airlines, and as I'm on my way to the airport, my flight was supposed to take off at 9 p.m. They're like, oh, like your flight's delayed by an hour and a half. So like to like 10:30, 10:40. And I was like, oh, whatever. Like as long as I get home, I have a job the next day. And then we're like still all waiting at the airport. And then it comes closer to like 10:30. And they're like, oh, the flight's now delayed until midnight. And everyone's just like, oh my God, like we all just want to get home because now we're going to be flying pretty late into Calgary. And then it gets a little bit closer now to midnight, and they go over the PA system and they're like, oh, like your flight's canceled because of staff delay. And we're all like, so the guy's like, okay, well, you guys all have to like leave the terminal now. As we're leaving the terminal, a bunch of us are getting texts of when our new flight was. Mine was 8 days later, which it literally says on the website, but to the APPR, which is like where you find passenger rights when you're flying within Canada, for anyone who doesn't know, says that if the airline cancels your flight, you must be rebooked within 48 hours of your original departure time. Mine was 8 days later. That's nuts.
I'd be so stressed. Did you start crying?
Oddly enough, I laughed, but it was like a more of like a panic laugh.
Yeah.
Because I just like, to me, this was just like a joke. Like
because now you're stuck in Toronto. You don't have accommodation set up. You're probably missing work. What are you supposed to do?
Exactly.
Like,
and
what
then,
do you do?
Well, so we get to the point where like we're all supposed to line up and talk with agents, and we're all just like kind of like waiting, and it sounded like people were either booked on the 19th of February or the 24th of February. And I was rebooked for the 24th. I'm like, bro, this, like, obviously this doesn't work. And after a while, after about like, I would say about 45 minutes of waiting in line, one of the Porter attendants comes and he's speaking to everyone. He's like, yeah, so like if you've received the text of when your like next flight is, we can't help you any further, like go home type of thing. And all of us start yelling and we're like, where are we supposed to go?
Yeah.
And they're like, they're basically like, that's not our problem. And like, there was like one girl there who had just like freshly 18 who was trying to get home so that she could get her credit card. And she's literally saying to these people, like, how am I supposed to book a hotel if I don't have a credit card? Like, I just turned 18. Like,
no.
I can't just get one right away. And they basically, like, laughed at her and was like, that's not our problem.
Oh, no.
Like, that's so rude. Like, this poor girl, she was stuck at the airport longer than I was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I ended up, like, I was just so furious. And my mom ended up booking me on a new flight with Flair, which ended up not working out either. But I ended up getting home on the 19th at like 1 p.m. with Porter. And I was like, how did you guys not even put me on this flight? Like, why couldn't I even be on this flight? So I've put all of my claims in now and I'm just waiting to hear back because they owe me a lot of money. And fun fact, if your flight is delayed 3 hours or more, but 6 hours or less, you are required to receive $400.
Yes, and for anybody who doesn't know, if you are traveling on an airplane, you have rights, and you can access these by just going to the website. Literally just search up what your rights are in Canada, because you might be entitled, depending on if you're delayed, whether your flight is canceled,
Stuck on the tarmac.
Yeah, there's all different, like pretty much any situation. Search up what you're entitled to, because you might be entitled to compensation, and all you have to do is fill out a form.
Yeah.
And basically it'll get sent your way, because that can be super frustrating. And also, in addition to looking up what your rights are and if you can get compensation that way, also look at through your credit card's policies, because certain credit cards will also protect you if you booked your flight through them. It doesn't matter if you are delayed, if your bags are getting delayed coming in, if your flight is canceled, whatever the situation, even if it's just for a little bit, just it's always worth looking up and seeing what you can do, because there's a lot of situations where it might be really crappy in the moment, but in the long term, you could get some financial compensation or meal vouchers, hotels, accommodation, everything like that.
Well, and also too, if a airline actually denies your request, you're actually allowed to put a claim through the APPR. But what I did was, with all my claims, is I took screenshots from the APPR website to be like, I know what's right here. So
absolutely. So I just wanted to bring that up, because when I first started traveling, I didn't know that there were all of these laws in place to protect me. And I kind of wish I did know, because you never know what's going to happen when you're flying and what could happen. And so it's good to have those in place. But on the topic of flights going awry, I have some personal stories I want to share. The first one is, okay, one time I was delayed, and this is, okay, it's going to sound like I'm lying. Like, it is going to sound like I am literally making this up, but I promise you I am telling the truth. I'm not joking. So I was flying from New York to somewhere in Canada. I think it might have even been like the last leg of my flight. Actually, I remember it was New York to Calgary, and it was my last flight after having been doing like 40 hours of travel. I think I was flying home from Sri Lanka at the time, and I was just so pumped to finally be on that final little flight back into Canada. I'm waiting in the waiting area, as you do, and the gate agent, she hops onto the intercom and she's like, "Hey guys, I know we're supposed to be boarding shortly. I am so sorry, but I just have to let you know our flight is going to be delayed because," and then she laughs. She's like, "Because, well, the window in the cockpit of the plane fell out." And everybody just looks at each other like, what did she just say? And she's like, yeah, apparently something happened and the window in the cockpit fell out, and so we've got maintenance there. They're on the way. They're going to be trying to fix it, but in the meantime, we're going to try to find a backup plane, and hopefully we'll get you to your destination soon. And we were like, how is she acting so chill about this? Because I just have so many questions. Do the windows in the cockpits come out? Or do they open?
Yeah, like, did it break?
Did it break? How does that happen? I need a pilot or a flight attendant or anybody who works in aviation to explain this to me, because like, I'm wondering, are the windows kept on by pressure while flying? And it was like, at least this didn't happen while we were on the flight in the air. Can you imagine? Because there was that story of the Alaska Airlines flight where the door plug flew out mid-flight. And
bro, and then I read online that some child's clothes came off.
I know, that was really bad, but everybody was okay, right? Other than losing their clothing.
How does that, like, to me, it's like, how does a child lose its clothes?
Well, imagine the air pressure.
But like, why only the child? There was other people on the plane. How did this child lose its clothes, but no one beside him did?
I have questions. I have a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just so bamboozled by the fact that this window, like, and the gate agent sharing that with us, I feel like she should not be sharing that with all of the passengers as they're waiting to board. Like, I feel like she was so taken aback, flabbergasted by what she just heard. She needed to share it.
I mean, like, I commend her for being fully transparent, because actually a lot of the times agents are supposed to either lie or not tell the full truth on why the flight is like delayed or canceled.
Where did you hear this?
I can't remember where I heard this, but yeah, like, even when I've put in claims or whatever, they've like told me, oh, it's because of this. And then when I got like an email back a year later being like, oh, actually we were wrong, that tells me that they don't always tell the truth.
Yeah, because I guess the compensation that they offer in certain situations, it differs based on the circumstances, like whether it was within the plane's control or without.
Yeah.
Like whether it was like weather related. So I can see there being situations where they're hoping that you don't realize it was like within their control.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was crazy, but I did end up making it. Basically, they ended up changing gates because I'm pretty sure we had to go on this different plane.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to delay us. Pretty much everybody like had to sprint to this other gate that was like far away, but we made it on and we ended up still catching a flight and it was fine and I made it home safely. Thank goodness.
Good.
But there are so many situations on flights that can go wrong. And I heard one online that I want to share with you and get your take on. That I just like, I never thought about this. So, you know how there are no-fly lists?
Yeah.
Do you know anybody who's on one?
I know someone that's banned from the States, but that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. So if you do something bad on a flight or that's like against regulation or against the airline's policies or against the law, you can end up on a no-fly list, meaning you are not allowed to catch a flight, basically.
I'd hate that.
I would hate that too, but it can happen. And there's a wide variety of circumstances that could lead to that happening to you. But I want to share one that happened to somebody. Well, first of all, I was watching TikTok today and this one girl was sharing how she was on a no-fly. She says she allegedly is on a no-fly list, and she said it's because when she was 15 years old she went and she had, I think it was like a vape, but I'm pretty sure it had weed in it. I don't know what those are called.
Oh, weed pen?
A weed pen. That's it. Probably. I don't know. I've never owned one. But she said she was on the flight and she was just like really big into smoking then. She's just a gardener, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So she basically said she was on the flight and she had got it through security, no problem. And she had gone to the bathroom and she took a hit. And she's like, that was good. And then she was about to leave the bathroom and she said it was like the longest walk down to the bathroom. And she just like hadn't, like, she's just a regular smoker, and so she just like really felt the need to use her weed pen. And so she took one hit in the bathroom, and then she's like, you know what, if I took one more hit, that would like really get me like the perfect level of high to get through this flight. And so it's like a vape for anybody who doesn't know. And so she's like, I'm just gonna do one more hit. And so she did. And as she is like trying to hold it in, she just didn't hold it in well enough. Like some of the vapors got out of her nose or mouth or however that would work. And she said she set off the fire alarm on the plane. And it was like, she's like, it's not just like a subtle like beep, beep, beep. She's like, it's loud screaming in there. And so she's like panicking.
Wait, so she wasn't even on the plane?
No, this is in the bathroom on the plane.
Oh, she's an idiot.
Yeah, she did it in the bathroom on the plane. And so she's like panicking, trying to get out because she's like, oh crap, am I the person who just set off that fire alarm? So she's like hoping that they wouldn't, wouldn't associate it with her. But she's like, as soon as I opened the door, there were flight attendants right there. And basically the flight attendant said, you're going to jail. First thing that they told her is, you're going to jail. You just ruined your life. And she's like a 15-year-old girl who probably shouldn't even have these products, who just made one bad decision on the flight. Well, a couple probably, but like, but now she said she got escorted. Like they took all of her information. She had to fill out tons of paperwork. She said as soon as she got off the flight, they escorted her off and there were cops waiting for her. She said she had her own perp walk where they walked her out of the airport, and it was like this huge deal. And now she is on a no-fly list probably for the rest of her life because of that situation that she made. Isn't that insane?
Couldn't be me.
No, me neither. So this is just your reminder that as much as you want to hit your vape or your weed pen or anything on a plane, it is a federal offense. And as much as you think you can get away with it, it is not worth the risk. Absolutely not. And on that note, I want to share another situation very similar, but that I also heard on TikTok. And this is why this guy, first of all, he was saying, never, ever trade seats with somebody on a plane. First of all, have you ever traded seats with anybody on a plane?
Yes.
What circumstances?
Not necessarily like traded seats with someone. Well, I've done both. So I've seen where like there's like room on the flight for me to move to like a preferred seat. And I just like ask the flight attendant, like once they're once everyone's like seated, I'm like, hey, if the flight's like done being boarded, do you think I could move to this seat? And they'll either one say, yes, you can move right now, or two, like, can you wait until the plane's in the air? And then I've also done it in a situation where I think it was like a couple or whatever, just like wasn't like I was sitting, we were basically in the same seats, but they would have moved me to a better seat because of where the couple had split up or whatever, so they thought it was easier to like move me. And so we just like asked the flight attendant, or I don't ask I either ask the flight attendant or I just let them know, hey, I ended up moving my seat.
See, and that's the thing that I would like to note. You let the flight attendant know. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to share a situation that this man had shared online. And I don't know if I have the details exactly right, so I'm going to try to summarize it the best that I can. But essentially, there was a guy who he boarded a flight and he sat down in his seat and everything was going well. And this man approached him as they were boarding and said, "Excuse me, sir, I'm so sorry to bug you, but can I trade seats with you?" And the guy was like, "Well, why?" And I'm pretty sure the man was like, "Oh, this is just closer to my children. I understand. Like, I would really love to sit by them. I know it's early in the morning, but like my seat is closer to the front. It's a better spot anyways. And it's a window seat or something like that. Like, and right, you're in a middle seat. So this is fine, right?" And the guy's like, "You know what? Yeah, sure. I'll trade seats with you. That's no problem because that's a better seat anyways." And so this guy traded seats with the man, basically, didn't think anything of it. The flight went normal. On the flight, there was like a little commotion that had happened at one point where something went down. And I think there was like a bit of an argument or a fight or something had happened where maybe it might have even been something like somebody smoking in a bathroom. But this guy, he didn't think anything of it because it did not impact him. Got off his flight, continued life as normal. I think he was going on a vacation. Now, goes to return from the vacation. Everything's normal, goes to check into the flight. When he's at that first check-in counter, the agent is like, "You should not be here. You're not supposed to be here." And the man is like, "Excuse me, sorry?" And they're like, "No, you are not supposed to be here. You're on a no-fly list. Like, we are going to be contacting security and escorting you out." And this man is like, "I'm so sorry. Like, I think there is a mix up, but I should not be on a no-fly list. Like, I haven't done anything." And they're like, "Yes, you have. Absolutely, you have. There's a reason that you're banned. We're calling the cops. We're calling security. We're going to be taking you out." And the guy's like, what's going on? Like, can you explain it to me?" And they're like, "No, like, you should know." And eventually he ended up finding out what had happened. And they're like, "Well, were you on seat 37A on the way here?" And he's like, "That was my seat, yes." And then he's like, "Wait, actually, I ended up changing seats with somebody else." And see, he didn't notify the flight attendants because it was just an easy trade. But he's like, "Yeah, actually, sorry. I know my ticket says that I was on that seat, but I ended up sitting in a different seat. Why?" And apparently the man who had taken his seat had broken a law on the flight, like a federal law that ended that guy up on the no-fly list, whether it was smoking or causing a fight or whatever he did. But this man, who now he's on the no-fly list wrongfully, thinks that this guy premeditated it because he knew he would likely end up on a no-fly list, or it was possible. So that's why he did the little trade-a-rooney just to cover his butt. And so when the guy got caught for doing what he did, he said, they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" And he's like, "Well, you've got my info because I'm sitting in seat 37A." And they're like, "Okay, your name is John Doe," or whatever the name is that is showing on the seat.
Yep.
And I guess they didn't ID him properly or however it went down. And this guy ended up on a no-fly list and he had to do this huge appeal and he missed his flight going home. And it was a huge deal because he needed to prove somehow that it wasn't him who caused this commotion on the flight, but because people didn't do what they were supposed to do and like check the proper IDs, it was like this huge deal. Like, how can you prove? Like, it's like hearsay.
Yeah.
And so if you are going
They should get like cameras on planes.
I've thought this before. I actually am so surprised that they don't have cameras on planes.
Yeah.
Because, so the first time that I actually had this thought that there should be cameras on planes was the time that I was glutened on a flight from Emirates. Basically, what had happened was I was flying from Dubai to LA, home from Nepal. It was pretty much a 15-hour flight, and on flights they serve you meals. And on this meal, they give you breakfast like right at the beginning of the flight, and then they give you a snack halfway through, and then they give you a dinner at the end of the flight. And I have celiac disease, as I've talked about on my previous episodes. And so if you have a dietary restriction while flying, most airlines are actually quite accommodating to that. And if you go like usually 72 hours in advance, or however much time, each airline is different, you can request a special meal, like a gluten-free meal. And in most cases, the concept is good. Basically, if you requested a special meal, and there's a variety of options, vegan, gluten-free, like low sodium, like for a variety of conditions, which is awesome. And like allergy-friendly meals, dairy-free meals.
Yeah.
So if you request it, usually how it works is when you're on the plane, if you have a special request meal, they'll bring it to you out before the regular meals, and it'll be labeled, and they'll double check with you first to make sure that you're getting your meal. All is well.
I honestly, when I was a kid, I was always like, why did these people get their meals first? But as I got older, I was like, oh.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it makes sense because like you're double ensuring that there's not this cross contamination of you eating at the same time as other people. I get it. And then it makes those people feel safer who have those dietary restrictions. So first of all, I would like to note, I always request the gluten-free meal. And I would say probably 50% of times they forget my gluten-free meal. And I'm saying forget with quotation marks because I personally feel like a lot of the time it's a purposeful negligence, that they just didn't feel like loading it, or they didn't have time to accommodate the needs that day, or whatever it is, which is frustrating because your meal fee is built into your flight payment when you're paying for your flight. Like part of that is you're paying for your meal. That's why flights are so expensive for the most part. So basically what I was saying is a lot of the time they forget it, but when they do remember a gluten-free meal, it is so exciting for me personally, because I'm like, awesome. I wasn't coming onto here expecting food, but they remembered, and it doesn't, like, almost all airlines that I've flown with have forgotten it at one point or another, or just didn't have it, told me they ran out even though I requested it. Anyways, I was flying back on this flight, like I was saying. The very first meal they bring out on this flight is breakfast. And they remembered my meal. So they brought it out ahead of everybody else. It is labeled gluten-free meal on the tray. On the actual food tin, it says gluten-free meal. On like several of the different packages, it says gluten-free. Not all of them, because there are some items like cheese or whatever that is like, you just know that it's typically gluten-free, or like butter, stuff like that. But anyways, they took the precautions. They checked in with me as the lady was handing it to me. She said, "Hi, Chloë Chapdelaine," listed my seat number. And she said, "Here's your gluten-free meal." So I am assuming that this meal is gluten-free, right? It's got like egg, spinach, tomato, a croissant, some other stuff. And I'm like, you know what? Instead of eating these all separately as they're separately made, I was like, I'm going to make myself the best little breakfast sandwich in this little croissant that they put on the tray and eat that. So I make the croissant. I start to eat it. I'm like, wow, this is good. Like, life is good. I'm eating a croissant sandwich on a plane, and I'm continuing to eat it. And then I just get this sinking feeling where I'm like, this is too good. This is too good. I have never had a croissant this good. I've never had a gluten-free croissant, actually, at all. And so I'm starting to think, why is the best gluten-free croissant that I'm ever eating on an airplane, like airplane food? And then I had this sinking feeling, oh crap, is this even gluten-free? Which it should have been gluten-free because I was told it was gluten-free. The tray was labeled gluten-free. But I just had this feeling like when you know, you know. So I stopped eating. I had eaten about half of the croissant at this point, which is a lot for somebody with celiac disease because I'm hypersensitive. Like, I'll react to shared fryers, to crumbs, to shared utensils.
And it's been like almost a decade since you've been eating gluten.
Yes, and it's been like a decade since I've had gluten. So I flagged down the flight attendant and I was like, "Hey, I'm so sorry to bother you. I know this is probably annoying of me to even ask, but I just like really wanted to double check. I know you said this is gluten-free, but," and I showed her the croissant. I was like, "But is this?" And she literally went pale, like lost color, and she was at a loss of words. Like, she didn't know what to say. It was like, oh my gosh, have you eaten that? And I was like, yeah, I ate half of it. And she's like, oh no, like, are you going to go into anaphylaxis? Like, what's going to happen? And I was like, is this gluten? And she's like, yes, that shouldn't have been on your tray. And so basically, I'm not going to go into the gory details, but it was a horrible flight. I spent the whole flight in the bathroom sick.
And 3 months later, sick.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that flight. I was sick for 3 months later. Like, I went to the doctor 3 months later because I was still having such severe gastro issues. And so basically, at that moment, though, that I was on the plane, so afterwards, I had contacted Emirates and let them know about my situation. And I, in that moment, wished that there were cameras on the plane so that they could see what happened and how that croissant got on my plate, and so that they could see that I had eaten it for proof on their end.
Yeah.
You know, so that they knew what happened and they knew how it ended up, and so that they could learn from that and prevent it from ever happening in the future. Because in my communications with them, I found out that it had happened to, like, those had ended up on other special meal trays during that flight, which is just
gluten-free as well.
Horrifying. Like, hopefully nobody else got sick. Like, I really hope I was the only person, and thank goodness. It's just, for me, like, I don't have anaphylaxis reactions from gluten, because some people might. But basically, I do think that there should be cameras on planes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then maybe I wouldn't be labeled as the diarrhea girl on every news outlet across the world for a month. Literally.
Actually,
you should have seen the titles of the news articles. I did this interview right after with this lady, like, trying to advocate for celiac disease, just like spreading awareness. And I told her that at the very beginning of the interview. I was like, I'm doing this because I want to raise awareness for celiac disease so that it can be better in the future. Like, for people with it, raise awareness on the severity of it. And literally, she's like, absolutely, I'll make sure to, like, pass along your message. News article comes out. Crying girl gets explosive diarrhea for 15 hours. I'm not even joking. I'm literally, after this, literally just Google, like, Chloë Chapdelaine Emirates flight. You will see the titles.
I would have emailed that girl and been like, bro, what the fuck?
And it wasn't just her. Like, I was in, I'm not even joking, like 100 articles on, like, all different news outlets about the situation, and it was just pathetic. Anyways, you can search it up yourself. It's horrific. Anyways, I do agree with you. There should be cameras on flights.
Oh, 100%.
But on the topics of travel, do you have any drama that you want to bring up?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a little, honestly, I could also do it as a life hack as well. To be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, but it does have to do with traveling, specifically using Airbnbs.
Okay.
So I had broken up with my ex in, like, September, blah, 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 blah. I find out he's now in this country with this girl he told me not to worry about. That's, like, the
short of it.
The short of it. And so I call him out for it, and he's like, oh, no, like, she just so happened to be here, and I'm using her to model at this hotel that I'm working at. I was like, I don't believe that, but whatever. A few months go by, and I'm just, like, looking at my Airbnb reviews, and I realized when you actually, like, co-share an Airbnb with someone, you both get that review, and you can actually click on that person's name. So let's say me and Chloe shared an Airbnb together, we would both get the review, and we can both actually see each other's reviews. Mm-hmm. So I click on it. Well, what do I find out? He did spend his trip with her at an Airbnb with a 1-bed, 1-bedroom Airbnb.
Never underestimate the power of a girl who wants information.
Bro, girls find out everything. So ladies, if you're listening to this, even men, if you want to know if your partner is cheating on you while they are in a different city or country, check their Airbnb reviews.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I never would have thought to check Airbnb.
But yeah, that's a little on the rock / little life hack there, because I think that's one that needs to get out there.
That's insane. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But I love it.
I know. It's a good one.
Okay, we're going to move into the shaken, not stirred section of the podcast, which is where every episode we share one thing that just had us shook. And I'll share something that I learned about. I am not, like, a huge lover of bugs. Like, I feel like that's pretty normal to say. But I didn't realize that regular looking bugs could be, like, extremely venomous.
Yeah.
There's a bug apparently called a Tomcat. I don't know if that's the actual name of the bug or if it's, like, slang. But there's a bug called a Tomcat in Bali or Indonesia that if it even brushes against your skin, you can get like these blistering, painful welts, like a rash that like bubbles up and is super painful, and it can leave like permanent scars on your body. And it's literally a bug. I saw this video of this girl who, there was one that like, she said it fell onto her and she just like quickly brushed it off and it just left this like horrible mark on her arm. Or somebody else had one under the covers of their bed because they didn't like check under the covers when they crawled in, because they were staying in this like treehouse type accommodation, and it left this like horrible rash. I'm pretty sure they needed to go and get like antibiotics for it during their trip.
Okay, how have I never heard of this? I've been to Bali 3 times and I've never heard of this bug.
I don't know, maybe it's a really rare bug, but I've just seen like a influx of videos regarding it on my social media recently, and I just wanted to say that shocked me. I didn't realize.
Shocking me too.
Yeah.
Oh
but
my God.
What has been shocking you recently?
I wouldn't say it's anything drastic, but applies to me heading to Aruba in a week and a half. But
Okay.
I think this is actually really cool. A cool shock.
Yeah.
When you travel to Aruba, there's actually this thing called an ED, an environmental something. And it's a $20, I'm assuming USD, a $20 USD fee that you pay to help that goes toward like environmental practices within Aruba. Just because even when I was researching Aruba for my birthday, they are very big on sustainable practices and being equal friendly. And like they're like the first island in the Caribbean, I think it said, that like focuses so heavily on this.
Yeah.
Which I think
really.
is actually really cool. Like that, like I've never heard of a country where it's like, can you please like you legally have to pay this environmental fee to enter the country.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool, because
That's
I really like to focus on being like sustainable, especially when I am traveling.
I feel like when I was traveling in Thailand, they had something really similar for certain islands. Like when I visited Koh Phi Phi, as soon as you get off the ferry, you have to pay. I don't think it was a lot. It was like $20 or something, but it was like a mandatory environmental fee in order to access the island.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I'm in full support. But I think that's really cool. Okay, on the topic of things that we are loving, let's move into the final section of my podcast, which is bottoms up. This is what we are obsessed with right now, what we can't get enough of. And tell me a little bit for you.
This, I don't think has to do with traveling, but you could definitely listen to it while you're traveling.
Okay.
The new Bruno Mars and Sexy Red song, Fat, Juicy, and Wet.
Fat, Juicy, and Wet.
Fat, juicy, and wet.
Like, it is so catchy. When I was in Toronto, that's the only thing me and my friend were listening to, because we just couldn't get it out of our heads.
It's a bop. Actually, I listened to it today when I went for my run. I was like, this is my anthem. But I would like to say, Bruno Mars, if you're listening to this, are you okay? How are you doing, bud? No, seriously. I feel like his songs used to be like, throw my hand on a blade for you.
Well, maybe he's getting really good punani.
I mean, yeah, but it's not like a sky full of ladders. You know? Do you know what I'm talking about? Old Bruno Mars was such a romantic.
I know.
Like, it was about like finding a woman and loving her forever. And this is like Pound Town.
I was about to say Pound Town. No, it's so good. You gotta make that kitty his pet.
Oh my gosh. It's vulgar, this song. If you listen, just a little bit of a warning. Like, maybe don't play it around children.
I mean, 12-year-old me would definitely be bopping to that so
True.
hard.
I actually have been like listening to some of the songs that I loved as a child. Like one song, I remember like dancing to it in like probably 5th grade. It's Lady Gaga, like, I want to take a ride on your disco stick. I had no idea what that meant.
Or
and
even
I was
like
just
old
like bopping
Kesha
to
songs too.
Oh my gosh. Wake up in the morning, feel.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I had no idea. And now I look back, so like maybe the kids are bopping to this song today.
100%. 100%. The songs
crazy.
I'd listen to at that age. Britney Spears.
Okay, my bottoms up obsession of the week is a term that I have recently been introduced to. And if you want to hear who I first heard introduce this term, I'm going to link her in my weekly newsletter. I have a Substack that you guys can subscribe to. It's free. And if you don't want to listen to us yap, I mean, you've had to make it this far in the episode to get to this. But if you just want to like a brief summary of what I'm talking about and to access sources or news articles, or just basically like get the breakdown without having to sit with us for an hour, I've got a Substack and you can read my episode digests where I break it down. And I'm going to link this girl because I love her content. I feel like she's an up and coming creator. But it is the term bratpacking. And it's, you know, backpacking.
Yeah.
Backpackers typically like they pack as little as possible. They stay in hostels. They just like get by. The term bratpacking, my interpretation of it at least, is like basically it's like you're backpacking, but you're a little bit more than just a backpacker. Like maybe you'll still splurge on a nice hotel, or maybe you're not going to be that girl who's just like embracing the no makeup life, and you are going to make sure you've got room in your bag for a curling iron and some makeup, you know.
Absolutely.
Or like you're still going to be packing like night out outfits, even if it makes your backpack a little bit heavier, because you're bratpacking.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And I love that term. I think it's great because when you're getting into travel and you're really new to it, I think it can be really intimidating to see the different avenues you can take for travel and feeling like, okay, if I'm going to be staying in hostels and I'm going to do backpacking, I need to be like the ultimate backpacker to the nth degree and like follow all these
biggest minimalist.
Yeah, exactly. Biggest minimalist, and follow all of these like untold rules and like all this stuff. And it doesn't need to be that way.
I've never packed like that. Like, if I'm going to like a hotel vacation, like a resort, I will be packing my suitcase to the brim. Will I wear everything? No. But I did my first like legit kind of, I guess, quote unquote backpacking for a month in last October. And I definitely brat packed for sure.
I love it. I think it's such a great term, and I'm going to be using it from now on, because it's like, yeah, sometimes maybe I'll take like the cheap accommodation and sleep in the airport, but sometimes I will splurge on a hotel.
Yeah.
I can brat pack.
And if I want to bring heels and sneakers, I'm going to bring both and
so
double
be
it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. But as we are getting to the end of this episode, well, actually, I have a question for you before we get to the end. How many pairs of underwear do you typically pack for a trip?
Oh my God. I made a funny video about this, but I definitely like triple the amount. Like if
you're going for 7 days, you pack 21 pairs of underwear.
Absolutely.
That's you?
Yeah. What if I shit my pants?
Have you ever on a vacation? I have, actually, now that I think of it.
You definitely have, being celiac.
Yeah, and I got parasites.
Yeah. I've never shit my pants, but I have gotten my period. So I guess like that works too, but like shitting your pants is funnier.
That's so funny. I feel like so many people are like, yeah, I'm going on a 3-day vacation. I've packed 9 pairs of underwear just in case.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Because like even too, if you think about it, and I do this because like I prefer good hygiene.
Yeah.
But if I'm like on a hot destination and I like wake up in the morning, I'm wearing my underwear and I'm going to like the gym or going for breakfast, and then I go back to the hotel room, I put my bathing suit on. Well, after I'm done, I'm not going to put that same underwear on again. I'm going to put on a new clean pair of underwear.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I get it. On the other hand, I'm like, I usually when I'm traveling, especially if I'm going to the beach and stuff, I just wear my swimsuit bottoms as my underwear. So then I don't end up going through all the pairs that I've packed, because it's like, I don't even need them. Like, I'm just wearing a swimsuit bottom, but I also feel like that's how you can get like yeast infections. So
yeah, I'd rather just be safe than sorry. Honestly, underwear, like for girls, like thongs are so teeny tiny weeny. You can fit them in your neck pillow and
exactly.
Fine.
There you go. Put those thongs in your neck pillow. But anyways, Colby, thank you for coming on this episode. It was great to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me.
And also, if you haven't already, I am on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. I'm on all of like the spots where you can stream podcasts from. I would love if you took the time to give me a 5-star review. You don't have to. I'm not going to force you. But if you feel like it, it really truly means so much. And I'm so close to 50 5-star reviews, but I'm not quite there. But anyways, I just want to say, if you've listened so far, I am just so grateful to have you in my life, and I hope these travel hacks and stories that we shared with you today resonate, and maybe you can even use some of them in the future.
Can inspire you a little.
But until next time,
cheers!